Hey guys, welcome to Mantis Dry Fire Monday. This is Active Self-Protection Extra, and I'm your guest instructor, Brian Hill, for your Monday sessions from the Complete Combatant. Today we're going to talk about shooting support hand only. It comes up a lot in the Mantis drills, and it's a good practice.
Today's video is brought to us by Mantis. The Mantis family of products is integral to ASP staff building handgun and carbine skills and are your most economical and fastest path to improvement in your skills too. Whether you choose the X10, the Laser Academy, the Blackbeard, or use them all in concert, they will help your practice be more effective, efficient, and fun. Go check them out, pick up a unit, and thank them for sponsoring today's video.
And a lot of times we try to make it a tactically good practice, that we might be in a gunfight and our primary hand has been injured and therefore we have to switch hands. But there's other factors involved in it. That's a highly unlikely scenario for the armed citizen if we watch active self-protection videos. It could happen, and it's something we want to get good at, but let's get more benefits out of it than this very unlikely black swan event of shooting. One of them is that you induce novelty into the experience of practice, and that is really, really important. The more new experiences you have, the more mindful you become in your training, the more present you become, and the better you get at training. This also measures your decisional mode of actually watching the sights movie and then making a good press on the trigger without having any support to do it. And you're doing it with a hand that has the least amount of experience doing it. So it brings you into a different part of the decisional drill. It makes it very novel. And then of course, when you go back to two hands on your primary side, you're indeed grateful for having both hands on the gun. If you just shoot the same way all the time, you'll have diminishing returns. If we do the same drill, we get the same diminishment over time because it becomes easier and easier. We apply less concentration to it. And in fact, it's likely to develop bad habits or make sure that we get injured along the way because we're not really present. So I like to do shooting with support hand only, not because I'm tactically worried about it, but because it keeps me fresh as a trainer and it keeps me fresh as a shooter. All right, so let's do a couple drills here. I really like to mix dry and live with this, and I want to talk about how to change hands because I see this to be a real problem on the range. So I'm facing my berm, which is at least 100 feet tall. We have a mountain in front of us. All the way to the road is 300 feet tall, so it's incredibly safe in that direction. You're behind the camera, so you're safe, but let's clear the gun and make sure we're ready to go. I'm physically and visually verifying it. You guys see the same thing? And now I've racked it 3 times. So I've got it in my support hand, and some of you are going to be really upset because I'm pointing this at you, but remember, you don't want the first time you see a gun pointed at you during an actual event. And this is a safe way for me to do it. You're safe behind the camera, and then you can actually see what it looks like. It looks very different from this angle. We find in force on force that sometimes people don't respond to it because they've been taught to stay away from the front end of the gun, which is a wise decision, but when we're using simunitions or a blue gun, it looks very different from this angle. Now I've got it in my right hand. How do I get it to my left hand? We know this one's not as experienced, so there's 3 ways that I know how to do it, and I'll rank them from my preference on down. All right, my preference is what we call the thumb swipe. So I'm going to turn slightly here to the corner of the berm, and I'm going to move my thumb out of the way, and I'm going to place my other hand and really focus on that trigger finger and make the grip. So all I have to do is place the thumb out of the way so the other thumb can come in, and then my trigger finger is out of the way. That's really the important part because you're probably not as well disciplined with that. So that's the thumb out of the way position. Now, what some people like to do is they take the gun and they point it down, create a gap at the back, and come in and reach for it. All right, that's the secondary method. So you tilt the gun slightly, bring your hand in and get a hold of it. Tilt the gun slightly, bring your hand and get a hold of it. The really important thing is to make sure that the trigger finger stays in high register. Pretty easy, both of those. Now, if you're really concerned that you might drop it, a really good way to do this is you take the thumb swipe, but you also apply gravity to it. So you allow the other hand to catch the gun, so it's gravity assisted, and now you get it back into position. So I turn it down and I move the thumb out and pass it down. Something you guys may want to think about if you carry an extra gun, or somebody else is armed, or you couldn't shoot for some reason, you need to pass your gun off. This is a great way to take it and pass it to another person so that they can get it without fumbling around for it or pointing it at them. So I've got it in the support hand. I'm going to do a little dry practice with it. Okay, we verified. I'm going to make sure it's still empty. Now I'm going to practice getting a good sight picture by extending. Every time I extend, I'm going to see the dot and get it under the dominant eye. So it may be tilted just a little bit because I'm right-eyed dominant. I'm using my left arm, so now I'm cross-eyed dominant. But I haven't found that to be a big benefit with the red dot sight. I just put it straight out there and see it. Then I want to practice touching the trigger and prepping slightly. Okay, and then come back, touch, and prep. Okay, do a couple reps of those. Now I'm going to actually press the trigger. And what I'm watching for is the dot to move. How did it move? And I saw it wiggle a lot, so that's okay. It stayed inside of the circle. I'm about at 7 yards on this target, so it's inside that big circle, pressing it smoothly, and I just keep the trigger moving the whole time and then keep cleaning up the sight movie, and it helps me be really connected to it. Okay, so that's my dry practice. You notice how I can do the switch. The switch is fairly easy for me to do back and forth with the thumb swipe because that's my preferred movement. But you pick with it, whichever one that works best for you. I'd suggest practicing with a dry gun first. All right, going back to the holster. Good. So I'm going to put my eyes and ears on. Okay. Now we'll shoot a couple rounds with this. Okay. Same thing. I'm just going to load the gun as I normally would, and then I'm going to pass it off to the other hand. I'm going to shoot 5 shots or so on the target down here. After I get done, we'll go look at it and talk about a little bit what I saw. Okay, so I'm in a good position to shoot now. Taking my time, got a good methodology behind it. So all I want to do here at 7 yards is just watch the dot constantly. Okay, I'm going to gently prep, fire the shot. 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 Okay? Everything's in. It's larger than I would usually have with one-handed with my primary, but not a big deal. It's good shooting. It's at a decent pace. That was our distance. Hard to see with all the light behind it. I've got one here, one here, one here, one here, and one here. So pretty good shooting with it. Just shooting from that, decent pace. Good connection, able to switch back and forth, and it gives me some novelty each time, helps me get ready. You can measure it on the Mantis, or you can shoot it in live practice, or you could do it in dry practice. Either way is going to make a big difference, and once again, we're adding that novelty into the experience, which allows you to appreciate shooting on the other side. God, I hope that helps you guys. The dot will tell you the truth, the front sight will tell you the truth. Watch it, stay connected to the trigger, gently prep it to the rear. The one that went slightly high, I didn't stay connected the whole time. I checked out a little bit because everything was going well. So I had to get back to presence of mind, get back to shooting. This is all good shooting. It's upper thoracic range. That's why I use this target. And that's pretty good for left-handed shooting. Okay? Someday you may be injured and you may not have a choice but to switch to the left side. I've known several really good shooters that had right arm injuries and they had to become left-handed shooters. So get ahead of the cycle now in case you ever have to do that, and you get good at shooting this way. Had a novel experience, become mindful, learn how to pass that gun from one hand to the other, and it makes your training a little bit more enjoyable. All right. Then if you have to shoot a qualifier or a match, everybody thinks you've been cheating because you're pretty good at this already. All right, I'm Brian Hill with The Complete Combatant. This is Active Self-Protection Extra, brought to you by Mantis. Great way to track it. You're going to see that little graph in there show you what's going on. It's going to rate your trigger press each time. You're going to get instant feedback. The faster the feedback, the faster the correction. And that's one of the true advantages of it. All right. As always, guys, measure, refine, and perform.